What's up, guys? So I just watched a video on Big Think that really opened my eyes. It's a video on YouTube by the channel Big Think, and it's called Dan Savage, Why Monogamy is Ridiculous. It's a 2-minute video. You can search it up yourself. And long story short, what it says is pretty much that monogamy, which pretty much means you only have one partner, one girlfriend, one boyfriend, one wife, one husband. That was actually a very recent concept, and throughout the entire human history, that was not the case. It was only very recently, in the last 100 or so years, that we decided that this had to be done. That because females only had could only get one partner, we decided to constrain the males as well, because now we look at each gender as an equal. And the point, like one of the points made in the video, was that it's kind of strange how we decided to do this, constrain both parties, rather than the other way around, which was free the female party to what the males had already been doing for thousands of years before that. And that means males for the last thousands of years apparently had concubines and excuse my language, but whores and so forth. Now obviously I don't have the research to back it up, and the claim that it was since the start of human history and only in the last 60 years that this has changed, I can't back that up with history, but I do feel now that it's mentioned, that I think it's very true. In a lot of history, it is mentioned for sure, and I really understand now why it is hard for people to constrain to marriage or a relationship with one person. It's not impossible, but it makes sense why it's hard, because our genetic DNA is now wired to think like that. And we are at a point where changes are happening so quickly, and they have been happening at such a rapid rate through technology and the advancements of society, that there's no way that evolution can even come close to keeping up with all the changes. And therefore, in a lot of ways, and I've mentioned this before, in a lot of different areas, we are still like our former selves tens of thousands of years ago, and that is how slow natural selection really is. And so I talked about this in another video on why we still have this sort of social anxiety when approaching girls and so forth, and that's because only until, again, very recently, in the past 100, 200 years, we've sort of globalized, and now we can travel and meet in these huge cities with hundreds of thousands of people, when for the last tens of thousands of years before that, hundreds of thousands of years, maybe even millions, probably not millions, we have lived in very small sort of tribe-like villages with a small select amount of people. And because of the lack of technology and other reasons, we never really traveled outside, which is why we genetically and biologically still have this sort of anxiety when approaching a girl, because we're still wired to what that time was like, where if you screwed up with one girl, you only had like 9 other girls in the village, or maybe even 20 other girls, and now that girl you screwed up with is going to tell the entire group, and now your chances of survival and natural and reproduction are squat. Like, you've screwed up, and that's where this anxiety comes from. Well, that's at least one of my theories, and in a lot of ways it's sort of been shown that we are like we're still sort of evolving slow compared to the exponential rate of which society and technology is changing constantly. So it really does make sense as to why polygamy sort of like people cheat and people in power cheat. However, I do want to pose one exception to this, which is the fact that from what I know about history, the limited I do know, is that like in many cultures, Incan, Chinese, it was only the people in power, so that top 0.1%, who actually had access to the concubines and so forth. I know, I think in China, it was only the emperors who had access to harems of thousands of women, which he could choose to breed with. And that was the sort of pyramid scheme that was going on. The rest of the people, the lowest class, most likely did not have that opportunity. So, can you really say that polygamy was constantly the thing at all times? No. However, again, one could counter argue to my counter argument that the emperor who breeded with all these women produced 90% of the children, and therefore his genetics and his proclivity and his inclination for polygamy was passed down to the greater majority of the next generation. And therefore the harem of thousands of girls, that which only the emperor could breed with and look at, they only produced genes with this emperor who had a proclivity to polygamy, and not the greater majority of lower working class. So this is all sort of just stuff to think about, really. And I don't know, morally it really puts a wire on my head and sort of boggles my mind, because I mean, I have sort of made some sort of a few naive simple videos about how that pretty much talk about monogamy and how like cheating's bad and so forth. And now it's kind of like opening my eyes, and I'm like, wow, it's kind of been like this for a long time. We're kind of wired towards it. It's only a recent change, and so it kind of makes sense why we're having a hard time doing it. And so it really sort of boggles my mind, what is moral, what is not moral. It was kind of, there's nothing immoral about having multiple things at the time. And so it really just sort of implies that morality comes through pretty much obeying the standards of your time. And who's to say the standards of your time are the end all or be all? I mean, even cultures and the standards of your time change dramatically. I mean, 100, 200 years ago, there was nothing wrong with having multiple wives or cheating on your wife. Maybe, I don't know about cheating on your wife, but definitely having multiple wives. But now it's different. But again, I don't have enough research to back that up. I can't really say honestly that it was the norm 100 200 years ago for everyone to go around having polygamy. So it's something to think about. And if you guys have some sort of source and research to back up your statements below, please post them below, and maybe we can all be enlightened and learn a little bit more about our history and discuss what is moral and what is not. Maybe there really is no answer. And who knows? I mean, I really do think that the whole point of Dan Savage's video on Big Think, it was like there's multiple points, but I think one of them, which he subtly hinted at, was the fact that he's pretty much saying maybe we should loosen up, maybe we should allow polygamy back into our society. It really isn't that immoral. It was just the fact that it's brought up recently. However, I doubt that will change. There are probably guys maybe watching this who are thinking, man, I want polygamy back because then I wouldn't have to be constrained. And my answer to that is it's probably not going to happen. However, you can be single and you can, I don't know, sleep around with a lot of women who have the same mindset as you. They just want friends with benefits, and it's an open relationship, and they know you're sleeping with other people. That stuff sort of happens. The question of if it's a rarity or not, who knows? Maybe if you go to a city like New York City, it's something that's actually more commonplace than you might expect. And so if that's what you're looking for, all hope is not lost. Or you can join like Mormon tribe, and they allow polygamy. But all hope is not lost. Even in American society now, there are such things as open relationships and friends with benefits, or just I guess you can call it, I guess there's no other really term for it. There's really nothing where it's like, yeah, I'm dating 3 girlfriends right now and they all consider me their boyfriend, and they're also dating 2 other boyfriends. There's not really a term to describe that, nor does that happen. But I mean, there are stuff like open relationships and friends with benefits and like other sort of stuff that work out in a similar way. So if you guys are like that, not all hope is lost. My opinion is you can go that far if you want to, but you really don't have to. Like you can like go one by one and just break off the relationship if you don't think it's working, or you're uninterested anymore and you want another girl, and that can work as well. It just yeah, you're technically being single, and I mean, if you really like the person, then it shouldn't be a problem. But if you're getting bored, then maybe that's for a reason. Then you break it off, you find a new girl, or new boy. And then let's say you get into that weird thing where you have that one relationship where you don't want to break it off because you really like the person, but for whatever reason your flesh wants something more physically with another girl, even though mentally and psychologically you want to stay with this person. Well, then that gets into more complicated stuff, and that is a talk for another video. But I would just say, long story short, maybe work it out with your girlfriend if she's willing. Otherwise, I'm afraid you're gonna have to break it off or stay with that one girl, or cheat, but that can lead to numerous repercussions. As always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe for more videos. It's completely free. I'll see you guys later.